Hey there everybody, how are you doing? Here to talk about some truth, I suppose. So, what is the truth? Truth is very similar to what is light. It's the exposure of lie. Lie, in actuality, is exposing of darkness. Now, the antidote to darkness is always going to be light. So here, my friend, we want to try to talk about some philosophy, some deep stuff about humanity. Why are we the way we are? Why don't we have any compassion? As supposedly we brag about it. We always talk we have compassion, but we don't show it. So there's a great saying. They say you can be conscious. You can build an atom bomb. They say you can send a man to the Mars. You can put a rover on the moon. You can put a rover on Mars, but that doesn't mean you're conscious. Consciousness is a whole different thing, because the same man that can put a man on the moon has no compassion inside to give someone that's suffering. Understanding suffering is understanding compassion. Suffering comes in many different forms. It doesn't really discriminate to the rich or the poor. It's just suffering. Suffering is being born. It is to wake up every day and move. That is called suffering. Within it, there is a relief of pain. Relief of pain is much different than pleasure. We're going to keep going here. We're going to talk about a bunch of things, I suppose. A little bit about me, who I am. I was born in 1979 in the bloodiest revolution since the French Revolution. I'm talking about the Iranian Revolution. I was raised in a war that killed 1 million people before I was 10 years old. As a child, I used to stand in front of a mosque. As a child, I used to stand in front of a mosque and see dead soldiers get carried in coffins, the Iranian flag carried, not in a coffin, sorry, because in a flag, lifted up and carried to the graveyard. Death and disaster and misery were very familiar to me as a child. It was very regular. Walking through and seeing misery was normal. I left Iran in 1988, was an immigrant in Turkey, in refugee camps with my mother and my sister. My father was a heroin addict who was very violent, especially towards my mother. Regardless of that, my mother kidnapped me and my sister from him. I was in Turkey. From Turkey, 3 months in Turkey in refugee camps, took a ship to Greece, Athens. From Athens, we were emigrated to Toronto, Canada. That's where I spent majority of my life, from the age of 9 to the age of 26. I've had many experiences in life by traveling to different places, but regardless, let's talk about some other things. Why is someone born in that situation and someone born in another situation? There's advantages to both. There's advantages to being born in misery, just as there's advantages of being born rich or in a peaceful place. God doesn't choose sides and God doesn't make mistakes. Always remember that. God doesn't choose sides. The reason I'm saying this is because me, throughout my life, I lived in darkness for many years. And in these years, if I would have told you that I would have I would say, yeah, I believe in God, but I never felt anything. Feeling and believing is two different things. You know what I'm saying? Because anyone can say, I believe, but how do you believe? Do you feel it? Are you stiff inside? How do you believe? So let's just talk about Christianity here for a second. The Christianity. Let's talk about God for a second. In Greek mythology, there was a gentleman named Alan Watts. Was I think many years back, a great philosopher, or what you want to call it, a speaker. He says that in Greek mythology, God only has one son. Why does God only has one son? Why not two or three? So we want to talk about what is nothing, what is silence. Both of them never had to be created, by the way. See, if I take this, I'm going to take a piece of stick right now. I'm going to let this piece of stick go from here, and it's going to hit the ground. Before it left my hand And before it hit that ground, it went through nothing. This nothing that I can stretch my hands in. It goes endlessly in every direction. This nothing never had to be created. It's been here and it'll always be here. Silence never had to be created. It's been here and it'll always be here. It'll always have the first word and it'll always have the last word. I can't speak forever, you can't speak forever. Silence will always be in control. Once you need to breathe, silence says I'm in control. Christianity, Jesus, God, the Son, the Holy Ghost. It's very simple if you really look at it. Like I explained this to you, silence never had to be created. Nothing never had to be created. That's the Holy Ghost. You can't see it, but it's everywhere. It's in the present, future, and past at the same time. Somewhere we cannot be, but we try to be every second. We skip the now to try to be there or be there. The only thing that gives life, my friends, and the only thing that takes life is light. Without light, nothing lives. Light is the only thing that is antidote to darkness, yet darkness needs to be there when light is absent. I'm still getting warmed up, by the way. I'm not really there yet. You know, it's funny, I was going to tell you guys something. I'm standing in front of a camera right now, and it's something I'm not used to. I'm trying to be natural, but yet at the same time, I know that I'm not being 100% natural. Why? Because there's a camera pointing at me. When that camera pointed at me, right away I stiffed up. Because of being judged. Because I'm a human being. And when a human being gets a camera in front of him, it doesn't know what to do at most times, unless it practices. But anyhow, look, in order to be existent, in order to be something instead of nothing, there has to be a left for there to be a right. There has to be an up for there to be a down. Existence is only validated through opposites. This is very important for you to understand. If there was only a left turn, it wouldn't work. If there was only up, it wouldn't work. Not in this universe, not in this planet. In order for there to be a truth, there's gotta be a lie. So lie is not really a lie, is it? It's just a truth sealed in darkness. You know what I mean? At the end, every lie will be exposed. You will not leave this planet. Your soul will not leave unless it leaves honestly. There's a great saying, they say, when God says, when you come into my house, come clean, be honest. It's the ego. We are controlled by our ego. The ego has many layers. I'll tell you something. When you're born, they give you a name, Mike. They give you a last name, Smith. They give you labels. Now, you're this, you're that. You become a teacher, you become this. All these labels become attached to you. These are labels that you gotta go through back to find out who you really are. The beginning. In order to go to the beginning, you gotta go through all these labels that you've been giving yourself and others been giving you. Time doesn't exist. Ask a giraffe what time it is. What would he answer you? It's always right now. A gentleman, Eckhart Tolle, a book called The Power of Now, explains this very, very, very precisely. Anyhow, just like I said that for there to be darkness, there has to be light. For there to be light, there has to be darkness. So what's the absence of darkness? Light. What's the absence of light? Darkness. What's the absence of both? Have you ever asked yourself, what's the absence of both? It's very important. The absence of both is the absence of presence, past, and future. So that means the absence of light and darkness is also something. When you say, I see nothing, and you say, I see a tree, you're saying the two things, the same thing. That means you're seeing two things. You're not just seeing the tree. You're also seeing the nothing that's around the tree. And that nothing is the creator of everything. Without it, nothing lives. So when you say, I see nothing, you're not seeing nothing. Nothing is something. It's in between everything. When you see a window, and you see all those little squares on it, and you see directly outside because there's nothing in there. Nothing is clarity. It's clearness. That's what nothing is. Without it, there's no existence. There's nothing. But again, remember, this nothing never had to be created. It never had to be created. If there was no dark and lightness, if there was no dark and light, this nothing will still be here. But me and you wouldn't be able to see it because there's no light. Silence gives voice. Nothing gives something. They're both the same thing. Stop. Never had to be created. It's always stopped. Go is because there's stop. Remember the opposite to everything you say. What else do you want to talk about? Hey guys, let's just for non-believers of God, for people that think something unconscious can give life to something conscious. Always remember what I said. For those who do not believe in God, believe that something unconscious can give life to something conscious. No, my friends, something unconscious gives life to something unconscious. So you are unconscious. Only something conscious can give life to something conscious. Let me say something. The problem with humanity is they put an image to God. God has no image. Does this nothing have an image to it? Can you see, can you feel it? No, but it's everywhere, right? For people that don't believe in God, that means they don't believe in light. There's a great saying, they say people that live in darkness, light is painful for them because it gives them hope. Well, if I say I don't believe in God, it's because I don't believe. I'm sorry, guys. Let's talk about Christianity. Again, you're putting an image to God. God doesn't look like me or you. Me and you worship our image, or we insult our image. Yet that image has done nothing bad to you. When you look in that mirror and you praise your image, your ego's developing. When you insult your image, it'll insult you back 10 times worse. You know why? Because that image has done nothing bad to you. So why do you attack it? Because you don't want to see you don't want it to be what you are. You want it to be something else. Again, there's a great saying, they say, gain the world and lose your soul. God has no image. Light, nothing, darkness. Remember, the Holy Ghost is the nothing you see. The darkness is the Father. The light is the Son. Which one of these look like man? None of them. The same light that shines on you is the same light that's inside you. And when you stand in front of a mirror, always remember, your image communicates with your real image internally without you even knowing it. And the decision will be made before you even move of how you're going to feel, what's going to be given, and what's going to be taken from you. We're talking about the image of God. So when God says I made man out of my image, it doesn't mean me or you. This image doesn't exist. What God means, the first star that I created was my son, and every star after that is in the resemble of my son. That's what he talks about. Why me or you? Why not that tree? Why it's in our image, not in the tree's image? The tree's here long before we were here. The tree's been here long before we are. Why our image? Why not the lion or the tiger? No, because God is not that cruel to come as a man or a woman or a Hispanic or a Middle Eastern. We are not in God's image, not our form. Everything internal is in God's image. And everything internal is the space in between your organs, the space in between your ribs. Whatever is empty in your body is God. Just like space. Emptiness, again, something empty will always be empty. Emptiness never had to be created, it's just empty. But it gives rise to anything that is. Harmony can only be given right now. God is only right now. Don't be happy in the future. Don't be in the past. Be in the now. Find the now. Find a space in between your body. Stop contracting. Stop resisting thoughts. When you resist the thought, you contract. What happens? The thought gets trapped in there. So why are you doing this? It's like almost contradicting what you're doing. You're contracting because as we don't like something, we hold our breath. Subconsciously, we don't know it, but pay attention to yourself. Next time you're stressed, think about that. Think how your body is. Your body is tight. Your shoulders are probably high. Let it go. Let the feeling do its thing and leave your body. Otherwise, that gets trapped, and then when that gets trapped, another one gets trapped. Next thing you know, you have 30 years of trapping energy in your body. Nerves in your body, when they contract, they become closer to each other. Oxygen cannot flow to the brain properly at the right speed because the nerves are blocking. That is what depression is. The word depress means press. Press, decrease space. I know, I've been through it all my life. I didn't find God, God found me. In a hospital in San Francisco, bleeding to death. I was an unbeliever. Believe me. Believe me, there's no reason I should be even standing here if it wasn't because of him. Whew. Yes. So when I say look between things, you see God. So for instance, if you look at this nature, we look at the trees, we look in between the trees, that's where you see God. The space in between everything is the creation of that object. Why? Because space has to be there for there to be anything that is form, related. Something that you can touch and feel. If there's no space, there's nothing. Actually, that's not even the right way to say it. If there's no space, you can't even say that because space has never had to be created. So what I'm saying is when you look at it, for instance, when you look at it, when you come outside your house and you open your door, the space opens, the light shines inside your house. That's God. Without it, there's no life. You don't live. You don't breathe. You don't stand. You know, in Christianity, they say you're born into sin. I always related sin to time. The creation of time is the creation of sin, I believe. Psychological time. Because time has, why would something that never begun ever have to end? Hey, it's okay. Time doesn't exist. You cannot be present and be in the element of time at the same time. You cannot be present and know what time it is. It's not possible. One cancels the other one out. Because one is real and one is unreal. Oh, it's okay. You're welcome. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Okay, so I was talking about time and why is it sin. Why is time sin? For the same reason that being given a name is sin. Label. Labels are artificial just like time. It doesn't exist. Why is time sin? Because it takes your presence away from you. Every time you know what time it is, you have lost presence. Every time you have to think about something, about someone, you're in the element of time. And the more people live in the element of time, the more unconscious become over time. And you can see the direction the world is taking. You can see how egoistic the human being is. I mean, just look at Instagram and Facebook. Everybody's a model, everybody's a singer. People live for likes.
How can you logically convince me with the existence of God?
I cannot logically exist you because it's the only way I can tell you the existence of God is by thinking. I think, therefore I am. So you only think you exist. You don't know for a fact you exist. What happens when you stop thinking? What would happen if you went to sleep last night and never woke up today? Would you remember going to sleep last night? No, you wouldn't. That's called stop thinking. There's an off button in the brain. It's called dying before you die. To die is to stop thinking. It's telling your brain not to think is telling your heart not to beat. It's not possible. But there's an off button in the brain, and I can only get it by being honest, by breathing, by creating space inside your body. When the body's not like this. If time wasn't created, labels wouldn't be created. How could something that never begun end? Do you see how we always say the end of times, the end of times? What times? Nothing never started. How could nothing ever end? Nothing never started. How could nothing ever end? Nothing. What I'm referring is to God, by the way. What I'm referring to you're breathing every day. You can't see certain things you can't hold and you can't see. Air, you can't see. You can't hold. Those things that you don't see are responsible for everything that you do see. Always remember that. The things that you don't see are responsible for everything that you do see. Well, of course, like if you really look at life in general, it's like the things you don't see are responsible for everything that you do see. Because in between everything that you do see, there is things that you don't see. It's just logic. But people have to pay attention. And by paying attention, mean don't pay attention and don't know. Every time in your life you've been happy, you didn't know what time it was. Not even happiness, because happiness has an opposite, which is sadness. The only thing that doesn't have an opposite is joy. Joy is created internally, and it doesn't have any opposite. It gives clarity to the mind, and it gives stimulation to the nerves. But you just want to keep... no. So the more you don't know what time it is the more you will be conscious. But at the same time, you are born into time. And so am I, and so is the gentleman that's holding the camera. So we have to navigate through those if we want to exist in society. And in order to exist, we have to wake up and go to work. Well, now we have to find the space in between time for existence. Is to take moments in the day, in the week, and finding that nothing. So you can go back to be in time and go on stronger and be more conscious of being unconscious. Remember, when you can only be conscious of being unconscious when you know what time it is. And if you know that, you're in a good place. Because you have to put yourself in check. You have to catch yourself lying. That's called being conscious of being unconscious. Is to be aware of what you're doing at the moment and know the consequences of your actions. Remember, light travels in space endlessly. Space always outlives time because they are both the same thing. Light travels through space, yet space outlives time. Yet they're both the same thing. That's why God says, I made my man, my son out of nothing, because I am nothing. That's why there's a Star of David. But yet we have been told wrong. We have been taught wrong. Even if Jesus came back today, right now, appeared, God says, I can send my son back 1,000 times, you will crucify him 1,000 times. Because you'll never believe it's him. Look, we're in a place on earth right now, we're in a time on earth that everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. Look, I mean, if you, if you speak philosophic, if you speak honestly, if you're honest with yourself, everything will come out honest. And in order for everything to come out honest, the body's got to be at complete bliss. There's got to be no contractions. You just got to be you. Be nothing. Be one with nothing. India invented the letter zero for something. No, sorry. India invented the number zero for a reason, 1,000 years ago. Because without zero, one doesn't exist. So be one with that nothing. Be nothing. That's where bliss is. That's where God is. That's where you died before you died. And if you never came back, you wouldn't know you died. Understand the meaning of nothing. Please. Understand that when you say, I see nothing, you're seeing nothing. Just like if I say, I see a bear, I see a bear. If I told you I can go the rest of my life without telling one lie, I'd be lying to you. But I can tell you right now, I'm not lying. Just like an alcoholic. He says, I don't know what I'll do tomorrow, but right now I'm not drinking. An alcoholic that's, a former alcoholic, I'm sorry. Not an alcoholic. And by the way, this is my first time talking to the camera, so I'm a little bit off track. But as I go on, I hope to get better. But right now, I can honestly say that it makes sense, me standing in front of this. It doesn't feel dishonest. And I'll tell you why. Because throughout my life, I always wanted to do something dishonest to get honesty. What I'm saying by that is I wanted to take a shortcut and tell everybody I did it. Live in other people's shoes pretty much. Or let people live in my head. It's very important you don't let people live in your head. Because Einstein himself, the theory of relativity, object can only occupy one space at one time. You can't be only here or there or there. So be careful who lives inside your head and make sure it's you. When you think about someone, don't obsess with it. Because if you will be absent and that someone will occupy your head. And always ask yourself, is that someone, am I occupying that person's head at this point? Probably not.